Okay. Good morning, students. So, in a previous lesson, you learn about Nathpanthis, Siddhis and Yogis. Okay, and you know about the devotional movement in South India and in Maharashtra also. There were so many great saints in Maharashtra who spread equality among the people, okay, through their bhajans, kirtans, and they were devotee of Vithala, okay, and its temple in Pandharpur. Today we are going to learn about Islam and Sufism. Islam and Sufism. The saints had much in common with the Sufis. So much so that it is believed that they adopted many ideas of each other. In the Sufism, okay, or in the Muslim, there were so many different ideas, okay, and they adopted these ideas and it's were different from each other. Sufis were Muslim mystics. They rejected outward religiosity and emphasized love and devotion to God and compassion toward all fellow human beings. So they rejection all this and they believe in the humanism only. Okay. Just a minute. Islam propagated strict monotheism or submission to one God. In the Muslim, there is only one God, that is Allah. Okay? You know that in Hindu religion there are so many gods, but in Muslim religion there is only one God, that is Allah. Okay? In the 8th and 9th century, religious scholars developed different aspects of the holy law, that is called a Shariat, and theology of Islam. So, in the Shariat, there was the theology of Islam. What is the teaching of Islam? What is the teaching of religious teaching of Islam? It is given in Shariat. While the religion of Islam gradually became more complex, Sufis provided it with an additional dimension that favored a more personal devotion to God. The Sufis often rejected the elaborate rituals and codes of behavior demanded by Muslim religious scholars. Muslim religious scholars, they demanded code of behavior. Okay, but some Sufis, they rejected all this. They sought union with God much as a lover seek his beloved with a disregard for the word. Like the saint poet, the Sufis too composed poems expressing their feeling and a rich literature in prose, including anecdotes and fables developed around them. So, like South Indian Sant, Marathi Sant, they also compose poems, okay, poems. They wrote poems, okay, on the God. That is called Qawwali, Ghazals, all this, okay. Among the great Sufi of Central Asia were Ghazali, Rumi, and Sadi. Like the Nathpanthis, Siddhas, and Yogis, the Sufis too believe that the heart can be trained to look at the world in a different way. You know that Nathpanthis, Siddhis, and Yogis, they believe that there should be training for the body and for your soul, for your brain. Okay. So these things are also believed by the Sufis. They developed elaborate method of training using jikra. Jikra means what? Chanting of name or sacred formula. So they start jikra, means they chanting their names, chanting their Allah's name. Okay, that is called jikra. Then sama, sama means singing, and then rags means dancing. So singing, dancing, chanting their mantra. Okay, so all these they adopted from Nath yogis and other religious groups. Discussion of parables, then breath control. So breath control is very important. Okay, if you control your breath, then you can control yourself. So breath control, it is common in all religion. Okay, so you have to practice for breath control. You have to control your breath. If you control your breath, then you can control yourself. You can control your mind, your body, your soul. Okay, and so that breath control is very important in any religion, in Hindu or Muslim also. Under the guidance of a master, that is called peer. Okay, under the guidance of master or peer, thus emerge the silsilas, a spiritual genealogy of Sufi teachers is following a slightly different method, that is called tarika. Method means tarika of instruction and ritual practice. There is given page number 111. There is given some tarikas, means practice how to chanting mantra. Okay, how to chanting the God of names of God. Okay, that Allah. Okay, all this. So it is very important to train your body, your soul, your mind. Okay, because it is preparing for the devotion of God, and so that you must follow this instruction that you have to control your breath. It is very important. Okay. Then next page, page number 112. Turn this page, page number 112. A large number of Sufis from Central Asia settled in Hindustan from the 11th century onwards. So from the central India, they settled in 11th century. Okay, they are Sufisans. Okay, they came from Central Asia and they settled in India in 11th century. Okay, this process was strengthened with the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, and you learn it in chapter 3. Okay, from 11th century, it is from 7th century it started. Okay, but in 11th century there Delhi Sultanate started, and you learn it in chapter number 3. When several major Sufis centers developed all over the subcontinent, the Chishti Silsila was among the most influential order. It had a large line of teachers like Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti of Ajmer. Okay, he was a famous Sant, Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, okay, of Ajmer. Then Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki of Delhi, Baba Farid of Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Awliya of Delhi, and Banda Nawaz Gisudaraj of Gulbarga. So these were the famous Sufi sons. They spread their religious teaching all over India. The Sufi masters held their assemblies in their khanaga or hospice. So they held their assembly, they gathered there, okay, and they discussed their religious teaching. Where? In khanaga, that is called hospice. That hospice means a house of rest for travelers, especially one kept by a religious order. So those who travels, okay, to spread their religion, so for that there was a hospice. In the hospice they can rest there. Like that dharmashala, okay, so that is hospice. That is called khanaga. Devotees of all descriptions, including members of the royalty and nobility, and ordinary people flock to these khanagas. So common people and royal people or noble people also. Okay, rich people, poor people. So all these they can live in khanaga because it was the center of discussion of their religion. They discuss their religious teaching. Okay, they discuss spiritual matters, sought the blessing of the sons in solving their worldly problems, or simply attended the music and dance session. So there was spiritual session, okay? There they discuss their religious teaching, okay? And their music and dance also there. And so some people they simply attend for only dance and music. Okay, you know that Sufi dance, it is a very famous dance, Sufi dance. Okay, so some people they visit there for their to listen music or for the dance, and some people they visit for because they want to attend their religious session. Often, people attributed Sufi masters with miraculous power that could relieve others of their illness and troubles. So, common people they believe that Sufi masters have great power, so that they can cure all their disease, all their illness also. They can bless them, okay, and so that people believe on that Sufi masters because they think Sufi masters have a miraculous power. They have a great powers, okay? Because they are messenger of God, and so that they have some divine power, and so they visit them, okay? They follow to the Sufis because they think they can relieve their illness, they can cure your disease, and so that they believed on the Sufis. The town or dargah of a Sufi sant became a place of pilgrims to which thousands of people of all faiths throng. So thousands of people they gather there, they assemble there, okay, and it became the center, religious center. So many people they gathered there. Here is given a picture, okay, of dargah. Devotees of all backgrounds visit Sufi shrines. So not only Muslim people, but from all religious background, people they visit in the Sufi shrines because they believed on Sufism that they have miraculous power and they can cure their illness or their disease. Okay, and so that they can solve their problem, and so that from any caste background. So all religious people they visit to the Sufi scenes. Then page number 113. New religious development in North India.
सर पेज नंबर क्या बोले?
Page number 113. New religious developments.
सर वो लिखिए क्या?
New religious developments in North India. Development.
सर
One beta. Yes, new religious development.
सर ये लिखिए.
New religious development in North India. Page number 113. Okay?
ओके सर. यस.
The period after the 13th century saw a new wave of the Bhakti movement in North India. Okay, you learn about South India, then Maharashtra, then Sufi, and now about religious development in North India, okay, like Uttar Pradesh, that North India side. This was an age when Islam, Brahminical Hinduism, Sufism, various standards of bhakti, and the Nathpanthis, Siddhis, and Yogis influenced one another. And in that period, there were so many religious groups, they influenced to one another. Brahminical, then Nathpanthis, Siddhis, Yogis, okay, Maharashtrian Sant, North Indian Sant, Sufis, Islamic Sant, okay. So all these, Buddhism, Jainism also, so all these religious groups, they influence to one another, okay. And what happened in North India in that period? Okay. So we saw that new towns and kingdoms that were emerging, and people were taking up a new profession and finding new roles for themselves. Such people, especially craftspersons, peasants, traders, and laborers, thronged to listen to these new sense and spread their ideas. So these common people, traders, okay, farmers, peasants, so they spread their religious teaching and religious ideas. Okay, because all these religious teaching, so it is influenced to the common people. Okay, new kings, new kingdoms emerge. Okay, and new development start, and so many people they influenced by this religious group. Some people adopted different religion, and different people they adopted different religious teaching and ideas, and they spread their religious teaching. Some of them like Kabir and Baba Guru Nanak rejected all orthodox religions. So Guru Nanak and Baba Kabir, so these were also famous sons, and they rejected all the orthodox. Okay, they don't believe in that orthodox. Okay, others like Tulsidas and Surdas accepted existing beliefs and practice, but wanted to make these accessible to all. Tulsidas convinced of God in the form of Rama, and you know that there was the Ramcharitmanas. Tulsidas was the devotee of Rama, and so that he wrote Ramcharitmanas. Okay, Tulsidas' composition, the Ramcharitmanas, written in Awadhi, a language used in eastern Uttar Pradesh, and so that it was in language of Awadhi language. Okay, and it is used in eastern Uttar Pradesh. So Ramcharitmanas, it was in Awadhi language. Okay, I think it is in your syllabus also. In 7th class, Ramcharitmanas. Okay, Dohe. Kabir's Dohe also there. Okay, and Ramcharitmanas. It is composed by Tulsidas from Northeast, and it is in Awadhi language. So that is important both as an expression of his devotion and as a literary work. In the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas, he expressed his devotion towards Rama. Okay, and it is also valuable because it was a great literature work. Okay. So it is very important. Page number 114. Turn your page number 114. After that, Surdas was an ardent devotee of Krishna. Surdas, he was the devotee of Krishna. And Tulsidas, he was the devotee of Rama. And do you know about Mirabai? Okay? Sant Mirabai also there. Okay? So his composition compiled in the Surya Sagar. So Surdas, he wrote, and his composition, it's called Surya Sagar, then Surya Saravali and Sahitya Lahari express his devotion towards Lord Krishna. Okay, so Surdas, he wrote on Lord Krishna, and Tulsidas he wrote on Lord Rama. Also contemporary was Shankar Deva of Assam. Shankar Deva, he was from Assam. Okay, so late 15th century, who emphasized devotee to Vishnu and composed poems and plays in Assamese. So Shankar Deva from Assam, he was the devotee of Vishnu. Okay, and he composed in Assamese. Okay, so there were different religious groups. Okay, in North India there was Tulsidas, he composed Ramcharitmanas in Awadhi. Okay, and he was the devotee of Rama. Then Surdas, he composed Sursagar, and he was the devotee of Lord Krishna. Then in Assam there was Shankar Deva from Assam, and he was the devotee of Lord Vishnu. Okay, and so that he composed on Lord Vishnu. He began the practice of setting up Namaghars. Namaghar. Ghar means house. Okay, so house of recitation and prayer. That is called Namaghar, a practice that continue to date. So in a Namaghar, okay, in a house, he can practice his religious, okay, he can chanting the God's name. So there, the house of recitation and prayer, that is called Namaghar. So this tradition also include sons like Dadu Dayal, Ravidas and Mirabai. Mirabai was a Rajput princess married into a royal family of Mewar in the 16th century. So Sant Mirabai, she was a Rajput princess. Sant Mirabai, she was a Rajput princess and she was married into a royal family of Mewar. Mirabai became a disciple of Ravidas, Sant Ravidas, a sant from a caste considered untouchable. So Sant Ravidas, he was a sant from poor caste, from untouchable caste. Okay, but his devotee was Princess Mirabai. Okay, and she became the devotee, disciple of Sant Ravidas. And Ravidas was a poor son from untouchable caste. So this devoted to Krishna and composed innumerable bhajans expressing her intense devotion. And she was intense devotion towards Lord Krishna, and so that Sant Mirabai, she composed so many bhajans on Lord Krishna, and it was very popular bhajans. Okay, nowadays also Sant Mirabai's bhajans are very popular. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Her songs also openly challenged the norms of the upper caste and became popular with the masses in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Okay, so in her song, she rejected inequality. Okay, she rejected upper caste and lower caste. She rejected casteism, and so that her songs, her bhajans are so popular in Rajasthan, Gujarat, and here Maharashtra also. Okay, Sant Mirabai, she was the devotee of Lord Krishna. A unique feature of most of the saints is that their works were composed in religious language and could be sung. So, what is the one thing that is common from all the saints? It is their language. Okay, if a sant from Assam, then he wrote in Assamese. If sant from Maharashtra, then they wrote their bhajans in their regional language. Okay, if a sant from Uttar Pradesh, like Tulsidas, so they wrote their composition. Okay, so they wrote their songs in their regional language. Okay, so that is the common thing, is that they prefer their regional language. Okay, and second thing, it can be sung. We can sing their song, like we can sing Mirabai song, okay, and then other sons song, okay. So that two things are common. First, they prefer their language, okay, and second, they prepare their own language, and second, it could be sung. So these are the two common things we can find in the religious group. They became immensely popular and were handed down orally from generation to generation. So in that century, they could not write this. Okay, some people write, but it passed on. These songs were so popular, immense popular, that they pass on orally from one generation to other generation. Okay. Usually, the poorest, most deprived community and women transmitted these songs, often aiding their own experience. So, depressed class, untouchable caste, okay, and then women's, okay. So, they also express their own feelings and they pass on from one generation to other generation. It is okay because it was very famous, very popular, and so that it orally passed through one generation to other generation. Thus, the songs as we have them today are as much as a creation of the sun as of generation of people who sung them. They have become a part of our living popular culture. So now these songs, all these songs are our, it is from our culture and it is very popular in our culture, and so that nowadays also we sing Mirabai's bhajan kirtan, then Tulsidas, Kabir Das dohe, all these things because it was very popular. Okay, so tomorrow we will see next topic, a closer look, Kabir. Okay, so tomorrow we will see about Kabir. Today we learn about Sufi and Islam, and then religious development in North India. Okay. So which were the famous sant in North India? Who can tell me?
Sir, repeat the question.
Who were the famous sant in North India? North India के फेमस संत कौन कौन से थे?
Tulsidas.
Yes, very good. Tulsidas.
Sardas.
And what was his composition?
What was his
Composition.
तुलसीदास ने क्या लिखा था?
Ramcharit-
What was his composition?
Ramcharit Manas.
Ramcharit Manas. Very good. Okay. And after that, second sant. Second sant. Surdas. Very good. Surdas. Okay. And what he composed? Surdas ने क्या लिखा था?
Sursagara.
Sursagar. Very good. Okay.
Sarvali.
Saravali Sahitya Lahari.
Sahitya Lahari. Okay, very good. Okay, beta. So tomorrow we will see about Kabir, Sant Kabir. Okay, and he was very famous because of his dohe. Today also we sang Kabir Das dohe. Okay, so in next period we will learn about Sant Kabir. Okay, bye. Now I am ending this.
Bye, sir.
Bye, beta.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Bye.
sir.
Bye. 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 Bye, beta.
Bye sir. Bye sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, sir.